Welcome back to My Happiness Defined, and I'm so glad you decided to press play today. Last week, I introduced myself and I shared a little bit about why I finally found the courage to start this podcast. Now, if there's one thing I'm learning, it's that courage has a funny way of showing up before confidence ever does. We spend so much of our lives waiting until we feel ready, certain, or qualified enough to take the next step. But what if confidence is not the starting line? What if it's something we build every time we choose courage? I've come to realize that some of the most meaningful lessons in life aren't found in the mountaintop moments. They're found in the tension between what was and what is, between the life we imagined and the life we've been given, between confidence and courage, between joy and grief. For a long time, I believed those things couldn't exist together. I thought if I was grieving, I couldn't really be joyful. If I still had questions, I couldn't really be grateful. If I lacked confidence, maybe I wasn't ready to move forward. But life has taught me something different. Joy and grief can live in the same room. Those aren't contradictions, they're evidence of a full life. So today, I want to invite you into that conversation. I want to talk to you about some of the griefs that have quietly defined my happiness. And maybe you'll understand that the life you've been longing for isn't waiting somewhere in the future. You'll recognize it's already here. It's just asking you to see it through a different lens. My number one grief is family. I really miss living close to them. I miss the spontaneous dinners, dropping by just because, and celebrating special occasions without planning a whole big trip. I miss knowing the people that I love are only a few minutes away. There are moments when that ache catches me off guard. For a long time, I saw moving away as something I had lost. I focused on the memories, the distance, and all the moments I wasn't there for. I questioned whether I had made the right decision, and I wondered what my life would look like if I had stayed. But here's what I'm learning: missing what I had doesn't mean I can't cherish what I have. Leaving home took courage. Not because I was afraid, but because I chose to step into a life I couldn't fully see yet. It meant building community from scratch, celebrating holidays in new places, raising my son and my daughter without family just around the corner, and learning that home isn't necessarily a place, it's the people you build a life with. Now, the life I've built is still beautiful, it's just different than I imagined years ago. But different doesn't mean less. It means this chapter has its own kind of beauty. It has a husband who's walked beside me through so many chapters. It has wonderful children whose witty personalities fill our home with love and laughter. It has friendships, purpose, new dreams, and even opportunities I couldn't have even imagined when I was younger or living back home. And if I'm honest, I didn't always have the confidence to believe I could build this life. There were occasions when I questioned myself, when the loneliness was louder than the hope, and when I wondered if I'd be okay. But confidence didn't come first, courage did. I kept showing up, I kept planting roots, I kept saying yes to the life in front of me, even when I missed the one behind me. Confidence simply grew because I kept choosing courage one day at a time. Those feelings don't compete with one another, they coexist. I can miss home and still love the home I've created. I can grieve the distance without diminishing the beauty of the life that the distance has made possible. That's what defining happiness really is. Not pretending life is perfect, not ignoring the things we miss, not wishing ourselves back into another time, but choosing every single day to recognize the beauty that's already here. Because happiness isn't always found in the life we imagine, sometimes it's finally appreciating the life that we've been given. Another grief I carry is the pregnancies that I've lost. This is a quiet grief for me, but still impactful. There are moments when I wonder what those babies would have looked like or become, or what our family might have looked like if things didn't take a different direction. That kind of grief doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it arrives unexpectedly, carried in by a date on the calendar, or seeing a commercial, or by watching another family grow. I'll tell you a little secret. I don't really care for baby showers anymore. And it's not personal, it's just personal to me. But anyways, sometimes that grief shows up in the form of a well-meaning question, and even that question is from my own daughter. So when are you gonna have another baby? It's a question most people ask with love or curiosity, but they don't always realize that simple questions can touch tender places. In just a few words, I'm reminded of the children I'll never get to raise here on earth and of a story that unfolded differently than I had hoped. After 5 losses, it would have been understandable to give up. There were moments where fear felt louder than hope. There were moments when protecting my heart seemed easier than risking another heartbreak. But my husband and I found the courage to keep believing. We chose to pursue IVF because we weren't ready to let no be the final word over our dream of growing our family. Looking back, I realized courage wasn't the absence of fear. Courage was deciding that hope was still worth fighting for. And something beautiful happened along the way. Every appointment we showed up for, every difficult conversation, every setback we survived, every tear we cried, every prayer we prayed, it didn't just strengthen faith, it quietly built confidence. Not the kind of confidence that says nothing bad will ever happen to me, but the kind that says whatever comes next, I know God has carried me before and He'll carry me again. I've started to see that confidence isn't something we wait to feel before we take the next step. I hope you're putting that together as well. Confidence is often the reward for repeatedly choosing courage. Every time we show up for the hard conversation, every time we try again after disappointment, every time we believe again after heartbreak, every time we choose hope instead of fear, we're teaching ourselves something. We're becoming living proof that we're stronger than we thought we were. I've learned that not every family story is visible. Some chapters are carried quietly in our hearts. Some children are deeply loved long before they're ever known by the rest of the world. And I know that's the case with my daughter. My son is loved. My daughter, her journey here was different. And she was loved well before she was born. Even though others may never see that part of my story, I carry it with me every day. Another grief I carry is the version of my career I sometimes imagine. There are days when I feel unsuccessful because I don't hold a college degree. I look around and I see letters behind people's names and careers that followed a more traditional path. And I wonder what my story might have looked like if I hadn't spent so much of my life pouring myself into motherhood, family, and simply surviving. But sometimes I wrestle with self doubt. I wonder who I could have become if my path had been different. And then I remind myself to tell the whole story. The truth is, life asked something different of me. While some people were climbing career ladders, I was raising a family, learning resilience, and becoming the woman that life experiences required me to be in that moment. And it wasn't all bad. My path wasn't delayed, it was different. I have meaningful work. I built a career through experience, perseverance, and a willingness to keep learning. Every opportunity I've earned wasn't handed to me because of a degree. It came from showing up, solving problems, serving people, asking questions, and refusing to quit. My journey may not look like someone else's, but that doesn't make it any less valuable. And if I'm honest, I don't always have the confidence I wish I had. There are still moments when I wonder if I'm qualified enough, capable enough, or accomplished enough. Moments when comparison tries to convince me that I'm somehow behind. But I've learned that confidence rarely comes before the first step. I think we see a pattern here, right? Courage does. It takes courage to apply for the job when you don't check every box. It takes courage to walk into the interview believing your experiences has value. It takes courage to go back to school later in life. It takes courage to pursue dreams that don't follow someone else's timeline. And every time I've chosen courage instead of comparison, something unexpected has happened. My confidence has grown. Not because all of my doubts disappeared, but because every courageous step became proof that I was capable of more than I believed. Maybe success isn't defined only by the credentials hanging on our wall. Maybe it's also found in the character we've built, the people we've loved well, the resilience we've developed, and the lives we've impacted along the way. Now, I still hope to finish my degree one day. That dream hasn't disappeared. In fact, I'll probably appreciate it even more because of the road it took to get there. But I'm learning not to withhold my sense of worth until the day I walk across the stage. Because my degree may validate my education, but it will never define my value. I don't have to choose between honoring the woman I might have become and celebrating the woman I already am. Both deserve compassion and both belong in my story. And that's another way I define my happiness. Not by measuring lives against someone else's timeline, but having the courage to embrace my own. I've stopped longing for another version of myself. I've started appreciating the woman I fought so hard to become. I am a woman who has learned that joy and grief can exist in the same heart. A woman who can miss her family and still love the home she's built. A woman who can grieve the children she's lost while cherishing the children that she gets to hold. A woman who can wonder what her career might have been while celebrating the purpose she's living today. There's so many other things I would fit, but this episode would be super long. So I just decided to share these few. But nonetheless, I'm beautifully formed by everything I have survived, everything I have celebrated, and every courageous step I've taken to get here. I am resilient. I am compassionate. I have chosen courage again and again and again until courage quietly became confidence. I'm still growing, I'm still learning, and I'm still healing. But overall, I am enough. I want to ask you a question. What grief have you been carrying that's been keeping you from seeing the joy that's already in front of you? Think about it. Evaluate your response and remember happiness is not found in a life without grief. It's found in having the courage to embrace joy without denying the grief that shaped you. It's found in honoring the roads that you didn't get to travel while wholeheartedly embracing the one that you're walking today. So, whatever response you gave to the question, I want to invite you to stop measuring your life against the one you imagined. And I want you to believe that the person you are today is not unfinished because of what you've lost. If no one has told you lately, give yourself credit. Credit for surviving, credit for growing, credit for loving after loss, credit for showing up when confidence was nowhere to be found. Because confidence was never really the goal, courage was. And if you've made it this far, you've already proven that you have it. Be kind to yourself this week. You're still becoming, and your happiness is yours to define. Right here on My Happiness Defined.